Modern day cops fighting orcs and elves. You had me at Will Smith wielding a broadsword. We're talking about the new trailer for Netflix's movie Bright. I'm Alicia Malone, and this is Screen Junkies News. Orcs and humans living together, mass hysteria. Last night during the Oscars, we got our very first look at the new Will Smith movie out from Netflix this December, Bright, which takes place in a modern day world where orcs, elves, and magic all exist. In the film, written by Max Landis and directed by David Ayer, Will Smith plays a cop named Scott Ward who has to partner with an orc named Nick Jacoby, also a cop, as they hunt for a weapon everyone is prepared to kill for, according to IMDb. Netflix has poured upwards of $90 million into this project, and it's their biggest budget film to date. Here to tell us whether they think this will pay off for the streaming service, Roth Cornett and Andy Signor. How's it going?
Hey.
And over on social media, Matt Key.
Hi, everybody.
I like that. Hi. So, Andy, you have some inside knowledge because you've read parts of the script.
Yeah, we read parts of the script, and we're friends with Max, and Max was so excited about this project. And like, Matt, I got to be careful what we've said, but he was just showing us like charts of like how much thought he put into this. Of like, here's the population of orcs to humans to goblins, etc. Like, it's just like this is a crazy big world he's built. That it sounds very excited. That he was very excited about. That you could just, when you talk to Max and when he's excited, he just makes you excited. So I was very happy to hear about this. It's this idea of this gritty real world place where the humans and the orcs and elves and all these people are together, and humans aren't necessarily the dominant species, et cetera. Like the idea of that in that world to live in and play in and then do it like a procedural in this sort of this regular way was really fascinating to me, and seeing sort of the assets he had were very exciting. So to see the first look of it was very, I didn't think we'd see that so soon coming out in December. But yeah, I think there's definitely something very big and could be very fun here. So I'm going in very open-minded.
Yeah, there's, sorry.
No, I was really just curious. So you were saying in a procedural way, so does that mean it's meant to be more serialized? Is it meant to be several movies?
Yeah, I mean, they're like cops, so they're like together. He's partnered with an orc, right? Yeah. So it's like the human and the orc going together, which is that's sort of
buddy cop.
But obviously it gets way more fantastical.
Movie. Yeah, it sounds like Lord of the Rings meets, End of Watch.
Yes.
So maybe that's the thing. It was a smart move, I think, on their part to advertise it during the Academy Awards because there were so many eyeballs. And Roth, Netflix has spent so much money on this movie. They spent $100 million on House of Cards, but they got 2 seasons out of that. What do you think about them putting all their chips towards this film?
It's really interesting watching what Netflix is doing, because everybody keeps saying that this is like the Wild West content. Everything is going to be a la carte eventually. People watch TV differently. Every year, how we watch TV evolves. So Netflix is winning the game right now. But because of international licensing deals, which sounds so sexy and fun, I know, it gets very complicated for their library. That's why they need to be moving more into, and why they've been moving more into television versus films back in the day. Was they started not being able to get the licensing for movies, so they moved more into licensing television. And then they made the big move into original content with the first big play was House of Cards, $100 million. They did a deal with Adam Sandler for 4 pictures that we don't have the numbers on, but it was estimated that Adam Sandler just himself got about 80 for that. So I think the idea that the idea here is to get subscribers based on star power, based on these huge vehicles. HBO does something really similar. They have something like Game of Thrones, and they spend buckets of money on that so that people will subscribe to HBO, and then they can do these smaller projects like a lot of documentary series and things like that. So it seems like that is what Netflix is doing. But to spend $90 million on one Will Smith movie, that's a big freaking bet.
Well, and is it going to go theatrical? That's the question I'm still confused about. Of like, you make a movie with this much money, I get it. You want Netflix, you want your exclusive, and that'll drive subscribers, you think, but why not put it theatrical for a little window first and then have the first window right away? To me, I would think that'd be a good business. This type of movie, when we see this footage, like, I kind of want to see this in the theater. I don't necessarily want to see this at home if it's so vast and big. So that's where I'm curious. Are they going to start getting that model of actually distributing a film in theaters and then having the window of now it's available only on Netflix.
Well, that's what they did with Beasts of No Nation, and I think they've been talking about that in terms of when they go to buy the Sundance type movies, that they have both the theatrical release and it goes on their streaming service. Also because you have to for Oscars, so that works for those kind of movies like Amazon did with Manchester by the Sea and with The Handmaiden and Paterson. But I will be interested with this one because, yeah, it does look like something that you would go to a theatre to see. So where Netflix, I think, and the streaming services do well is when it is small dramas that you can watch at home and still get that full experience. Whereas the big spectacle, that's why people want to go to the theatres.
But I have to wonder, I mean, they did Beast as a qualifying run, but I don't remember that having a huge theatrical release.
It had a slow rollout.
It was a slow rollout, and
Yeah.
it was day and date on Netflix, I think. So, yeah, it is interesting with a movie like this because at what point is it more or less financially viable for them to hold it? So when they buy something, they buy it outright. There are no residuals
which
for the
makes
actors.
it so much more expensive and complicated for talent.
Yeah.
They own it internationally. They own it digitally everywhere, which is very unusual for a feature-length film, right?
You're paying up front for all the talent.
You're paying up front for everything, and then you never have to pay again. So you're placing that bet that this is going to yield dividends for you down the line. And what I'm curious to see, so if you then put it in theatrical run, you've now got to split those costs with the theaters. You've got to split the profits with the theaters. So is that beneficial to them or not? I don't know.
I don't know. And I think, it's great when I hear Netflix say with The Discovery, which is a small movie coming out at the end of March, it got bought by Netflix, or I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore with Elijah Wood, because then you have a chance to see indie films on a wider, like people in small towns can see these movies at home rather than having to try and find theatres that play them and maybe they don't. But in terms of this one, I'm curious about it, particularly because they were in this bidding war with Warner Brothers for it. So, Andy, do you think they got caught up in the bidding war, or is this their plan all along to spend this amount of money on a film?
But I don't know how you make money on this just by having Netflix subscriptions. It just seems weird to me of like, there's got to be another market because they're selling DVDs, there's movie tickets.
It's all
there's,
the people that
they're
forget to
syndicating your
cancel
movie
their
to other, like
DVD
that's how
stream.
studios selling to China, et cetera.
Yeah.
There's so many other outside liars to make your money. Netflix is spending so much money right now. And I believe they're being successful. They wouldn't keep spending the money if they weren't. But it is very strange to me that they wouldn't then try and do a theatrical one. I think Netflix shouldn't try and compete with the theatrical experience. There's no harm in having this movie theatrically and then having the first and exclusive only window to see it after that window. To me, that's what I would think would be good. And also then is inspiriting, movie theater experience and doing that. And then to release it day and date, the theaters aren't going to like that. And then Netflix is really going to compete with it. I just think they're opening up a can of worms. So how they navigate this will be fascinating because this really is the future of filmmaking in a way. Because if this works, it's going to open the floodgates to so many other movies that don't need, like, screw the theaters. We don't need you.
Yeah.
Which could be very interesting. But I also think there's definitely a risk at this because this movie, if it's not good, or if they do a theatrical run and it bombs, like it almost hurts the like who cares that it's on Netflix type of thing. So it's a very risky move on their part. It's like I keep thinking of like, to me it's like it's very expensive. It could be very good or it could be Tarzan. And it's like, would Tarzan have been Legend of Tarzan, not to just knock on its right thing, but like very expensive, very talented people involved. And it's like it did okay, actually did pretty well. But like, is that
It ended
worth
up being
it?
one of the top of the summer,
I
weirdly
guess.
enough.
But like something like that, is that worth then having like a mixed result to then have the premium exclusivity for life? I don't know.
But I wonder too, I mean, there are certainly big, expensive films that don't end up performing. And if it's a company like Warner Brothers that's so established, it doesn't matter. They can take that loss in a year. I wonder,
Plus, it probably do well in China anyway.
Yeah.
So.
But to your point, like, because Netflix has the international rights, then they want an international audience. And that may be the goal and how they want to start yielding dividends for this.
Do you think that's why they've got someone like Will Smith, who is an international star? Is that a good move for him to be in a Netflix movie?
I mean, I think it's at this point, you're seeing every huge star make those bets. And frankly, if you're Will Smith and if they spent, I think, $45 $45 million on production. That's $45 million on the table for above the line. And Will Smith got a huge chunk of that, and he got paid. So to him, what does he care? If it doesn't work, then it's the platform's fault, or it's David Ayer's fault,
He'll
or
still
it's
be a
Max
movie star,
Landis' fault.
no matter how this
He's
goes
still
down.
a movie star.
And plus, he doesn't really open films the way he used to.
Right.
Because movie stars don't really open films in theaters. So they do on Netflix and streaming services, because when you're flicking through, you look for that star name.
Exactly.
It really does help. So it's very interesting. So Andy, the question we're going to be asking social is about, could Bright be similar to Star Wars? And that was kind of what Max was saying. It was like his version of Star Wars.
Well, I mean, as an epic, I know there's this was a big, vast idea of multiple stories could be told in this universe. So I mean, that seems a little lofty to compare to something. I don't know if I would go that high, but could this be a franchise? Yeah. I think it could be if in the right hands. The footage is interesting in seeing that the trailer for the first time, it's a little darker than I envisioned it was going to be, which just screams Ayer, which is really now after Fury and Suicide Squad and of what you're like, I really get a clearer visual of what his style is, which I think will either be fantastic for this or a little bit distracting of sort of the real world. I don't know, but it was weird if seeing it. It's not exactly how I envisioned it to look when it was sort of being described to me, but still, it looks very big and expensive in the topic we're talking about of Netflix buying a feature-like movie.
Yeah.
This is a big movie.
And if it is a big movie, Ralph, that opens the doors for things like merchandise.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to see if they're going to make a play in merchandising, because that's certainly another huge. I mean, if you look at like Transformers, obviously they make a lot of money. Lego Movie, they make a ton of money in theaters, and then they make a ton. And Disney movies, all Disney movies, they make a ton more in merchandising. So that's something that I'm curious if Netflix is getting into fantasy and things like that, aiming to try and get more and more into, if we'll see a move there. And then I remember last year there was the pitch about a service that you could watch a movie.
Screening room,
where you could watch the movie. You paid $50, and the day that it came out, in huge movies, you could pay $50 like you would for a fight and watch it in your home. And as you see home systems getting bigger and bigger and more elaborate, is the idea that in the future people really won't want to go to movies anymore.
I think movies will become like going to the theater, where you'll dress up and you'll go for one night, like for a special movie, but you won't go on the regular like you do now.
Well, it's tough. Like as a parent, it's tougher to get those, to see as many as I want to do. It's expensive. You have to get a babysitter. So for a lot of people and, all over, it's not an easy task just to go as often as you want. So I do think $50 is almost like, wow, my whole family, I don't need to buy the popcorn. You could spend that just on the popcorn alone at a movie theater. So it is an interesting idea that I think could work, actually.
I love the theater, but the more people that get to see more movies, I'm happy.
Yeah, and there's certain movies that I think you have to see in a theater, and there's other movies you can watch at home and still take a good takeaway from.
A lot of them, yeah.
Exactly. Matt Key, what are people saying on social media? Does this look like it could be a new Star Wars-esque thing?
Well, let me answer that question for you. Jesse Metcalf at JesseM8075 says, well, I'm sure Will Smith hopes so. Mary Delgadillo at Merrick's says, the next Star Wars is Star Wars.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think,
Plus,
Matt?
this is competing with Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's competing with Star Wars. My favorite, I will answer that. My favorite one, though, is Jonathan Peck at JPEG1098 says, I'm not going to say it might be the next Star Wars, but it might be the next Strange Days.
Yeah, I love Jonathan.
By the way, Strange Days is such a good movie,
Yeah,
y'all.
it is.
Okay.
I don't think I'm ready to say that it's the next Star Wars. I mean, I haven't seen it, but
What did you think of the trailer?
I like the trailer. I think that the orcs look a little strange, personally. They weren't like orcish to me. They were like green humans.
It looked like Killer Croc to me.
Yeah,
That
a bit
makeup was very
like
like-
Killer Croc. But I'm really interested in the movie. I like Landis. I think it's probably going to be fun. But I don't think it looks like the next Star Wars because it can't license the way Star Wars can. Like it's an R-rated film. So.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
that
it's
is
totally
a good
true.
point. Thank you, Matt Key.
Thank you.
Andy.
I hope it's fun.
Yes,
Make sure it's
I
fun.
hope it's fun.
Be positive.
And Ralph, thank you so much. I'm hoping it's fun, and I'm hoping it opens up a whole new avenue for filmmakers out there to get production from places like Netflix. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and click over here to see more from Screen Junkies News. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SJ News. Subscribe to this channel and give us a thumbs up. We'll see you next time.